Welcome to the Match Query, the place where football isn't just played, it's questioned. Because every season tells us two stories: what happens every weekend and what happens when the lights come on in Europe. Today, we are asking whether chaos at home actually matters when Champions League Anthem plays. We've seen teams who falter in the league, they then look untouchable in Europe. Remember Chelsea of 2013 and Porto and Madrid sometimes. So we are asking the question today: which version tells the truth? Is it the league table or the knockout stage? And then there's the bigger question: in a tournament built for giants, is there still room for fairy tales? Can a team outside the top 8 in the present Champions League format possibly win the Champions League? This used to be a thing in the past, where teams with not as big names would just cause major upset, have a fairy tale run, and then win the Champions League. Is that still going to happen this season, or should we be expecting the norm? 3 voices, different instincts, no warning, but a united opinion. This is the Match Query. Let's ask the questions that make people uncomfortable. Well, this is a general question, but I'd like Mr. Abba to start. Let's separate what's true from what actually holds up. If a team is shaky in the league, but dominant in Europe, should anyone actually care about their domestic form? What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. They should. I think when you think about something like that, a team like Tottenham Hotspur immediately comes to mind. And I think you should care, because you might do well in Europe, but if you don't win it, you won't be there next season if you don't do well in the league. So doing well in the league is what would most likely qualify you to come back to Europe the following year, not what you've done in Europe, especially if you don't end up winning it. Unless you intend to keep winning it year after year when your form isn't fantastic in the league. But it is critical that the form in the league is exceptional. You need to do well in your league. In fact, when you do well in the league, there is how that form helps you in the Champions League. You always come off a weekend fixture to get in the Champions League to play a big game. It helps you to have the confidence going into a midweek fixture. It helps you to have like the fitness, well, except when in the latter stages of the season where fatigue over long periods may have built up. But it keeps you sharp. I mean, there's a transition moving from the league to the Champions League every midweek because the Champions League has its own unique feel. It has its own unique experience. The margins for errors are extremely marginal. You make a little error and you're out, especially now that we've gotten into the knockout stages. So it is crucial that your league performance is very good, because there's how the psyche of humans work. When you're performing well, it's easier to build on it than move from a bad performance to a good performance. And when you get back to the league, you're probably struggling all over again. I mean, Tottenham may have made it to the top 8, good and fine. Nobody on this panel, nobody anywhere believes that they will go far. Let's be sincere. We all know that when the chips are down and they have to play any of the big boys, even if it's a big team from England, there are chances that they can't even beat Newcastle. They will get knocked out. That's the reality about it. And that is because their league form has proven that they are extremely inconsistent. They lack the mental toughness to provide the goods when push comes to shove. So are they in the top 8? Yes, good and fine. Yay, good work. Nobody expects them to go far once it gets really tough. So from the knockout stages, if they are lucky, they will survive the round of 16. But if they survive the round of 16, I don't think they'll be going beyond the next round.
Thank you for that, Mr. Abba. Coming over to you, Bon, still on the same theme. What do you think? Can bad habits really switch off on Champions League nights? We've talked about Tottenham. Nothing to write home about when it comes to their form in the league. But questions are being raised. I mean, look at the top end of the Champions League table. There's some form of dominance from Premier League clubs, if you look at it. And you find teams, you are looking at the playoffs for, teams that are supposed to be also runs. But we have the likes of Real Madrid in the playoffs. What do you think about, this thing? Can league habits really switch off on Champions League nights? And I'm saying this to you because I know you are a Chelsea fan. And remember the 2013 run for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Nothing to write home about for Chelsea, but it was a story written in the stars on Champions League nights. I still go back to watch, some of those games from Napoli when Chelsea kicked back to life. till the final. That Didier Drogba last-minute goal against Bayern Munich, right in their backyard. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you. I'm saying thank you first, because that's actually a very nice question to actually ask. As a Chelsea fan, actually, and it's not even just the 2012, 2013 run, even the 2021 run too as well. When Tuchel came in mid-season, you could see that they were not doing very well, and a bit of stability within the team, and profiling a formation that works with the current crop of players that Tuchel had at that time. We went ultra defense, but I think with that old stuff, we kept about 4 clean sheets. Because I don't know, I think it was 9 clean sheets or we considered 4, but I'm not very sure. We had a very, very good defensive run, and then we won the Champions League. So it's not even a matter of this current UCL style. It's been there. If you look back, really, it's kind of historic that yes, your league form matters. When it gets to the thick of the moment, right, where it's now a knockout phase, like it is one game at home, one game away, it can go either way. Your league form may not really matter. You could prepare for that particular phase of the game and knock out your opponent effectively. But you actually also mentioned why the EPL teams are getting into gear. If we look closely, since the switch to this new fixture where we have like a Swiss model, increased from 32 teams about 86 teams, 32 to 36 teams, and now we are playing up to like 150 plus games now. We have more games now in this new style of the UEFA Champions League. The English Premier League teams have been doing very well. Last season, we finished the top coefficient, one of the top coefficients of that season, and it ended England 5 UCL spots. I think we ended up we currently have 6 teams from England participating in this Champions League. Because of course, Tottenham won the Europa League, beating another English team in the final. Then you have a Chelsea that won the UEFA Conference League. So with that, you are seeing we have more teams, up to like I think 8 teams participated in European competitions across this year, right? We have 6 teams in the Champions League. We have about 2 teams in the Europa, and we have about 1 team in the Conference League. So that's about 9 teams. So it's not even 8, it's about 9 teams. What I actually noticed is the comments that Anthony Gordon made one of the press conference towards the PSG game this week, where it was asked what's different, like what is the tactical difference within the English Premier teams that are not doing very well in their league, and they're actually doing very well in the Champions League, even in the group phase. And he mentioned something about English Premier League being anti-football, around how it's more like a basketball game. But in the Champions League, you have seen them play the way football used to be played. It's down to the increased physicality. For me, it's down to the increased physicality of the English Premier League. It's like the English Premier League now is thoroughly physical. The teams at the bottom end of the table, top end of the table, it's now a very, very physical league. You can see the kind of numbers that some of these teams are putting up. I was telling Abba just before we started the show that if you look at the total number of sprints made by teams in the English Premier League, you see teams like Newcastle and Tottenham and the top 10. You will not see Man City there. You won't see Arsenal there. You won't see Chelsea there. You won't see PSG there. They are physical. They are winning duels. They are winning interceptions, recoveries. They are the top 10, 15, right? So because of that kind of physicality that they've had in fighting in the English Premier League, coming to play other teams in the UEFA Champions League, they can keep up with them physically. They can run them off the ball. Is why you see
they can even afford to conserve energy within the fixtures.
Conserve energy and attack them. So it's why it has enabled them really show forth in this group phase, right? Yes, as Abba said, will it take them further off? We are not very sure. In our last recording, in our last episode, Izzy pointed out stuff around the IDs of March. That actually also translates not just in the EPL, but even to the Champions League. Because now games are coming in, 2 games in every 4 days or 6 days. And some of these other teams in other leagues, like the German Bundesliga, the Liga, had the winter break where they were able to rest and recuperate. We did not have any winter break in the EPL. So we have been playing games since last year. These teams will end up coming to and bite us because it's what affected people like Arsenal and Liverpool last season, right? And because we are keep playing a lot of games, we actually have to rotate more. Some of the other teams, we keep their same formation. It gets the same team. But we would have to rotate to make sure that we are able to conserve players and conserve energy. So all this actually would factor in. But yeah, it's something that's been historical, right? I won't even call it like bad habits, but you can just see that because of the increased physicality and tension and intensity in the English Premier League, it enables us to keep up in the group phase. But with that intensity keep us into the knockout phase, only time will tell.
And that's insightful. That's really deep. But Easy, do you agree? Do you agree with this idea that it's the league form, for example, in the Premier League, what exactly is going on, the intensity, the style of play, the pattern of play, that's what's causing this dominance. That's what's preparing these teams, despite even their poor form, like the worst of the Premier League. But, when they get to Europe, they are dominating. Is that the case? Or should we be looking at it from an angle of financial dominance? That the English Premier League, the clubs there, even the clubs that are in relegation, are able to splash money around at a rate that the winners of other leagues in Europe cannot even begin to afford.
Relegation teams in England can buy players from Champions League teams in Spain, Italy, and France.
Yeah, Easy. Do you agree that it is just the league preparing them, or is this just another financial dominance, like we've been seeing over the years?
Okay. So I think it's a factor of three things, right? It's one as mentioned, tactics, right? So the league is different from so I'm going to use Tottenham as an example. There's also another so for that I'm going to use two things. I'm going to use Tottenham and I'm going to use Borussia Dortmund. The league is a very Tottenham the league, right? The English Premier League is, like Bon said, very aggressive, high press, everybody's pressing, there's like sweet counters, all of that bit, right? So in Europe, this is because a lot of the teams in the English Premier League, so for the big teams, they have high expectations, right? And the lower teams don't have that, what they call it. They don't have the money to fight these big teams with quality players. So what they do is they try to create an avenue where they can actually match these big teams. So the expectations for Tottenham in the Champions League, right, is different from the expectations of Tottenham in the Premier League. Tottenham, for example, in the Premier League is a big team, right? So they already have a very high expectation. Because of that, they have to meet up with it. Then in the Champions League, things are a bit slower. For example, slower tempo. There's more tactics. It's not about everybody's not trying to be very physical and that bit. It's not like a race where there's some sort of physicality and that bit. Tottenham can now decide, okay, they want to play more control. They don't have their fullbacks. If you notice now, their fullbacks in the UCL don't maraude like the way they do in the Premier League, where they are running back and front. Like one admission, sprints. Tottenham has covered a lot of ground, right? Because they do that in the Premier League. But in the Champions League, this is just down to tactics. They can decide to play what they want to play, or they can't try to play through spaces and stuff like that. And it's favoring them in the UCL. You remember last year, Dortmund made the round of 16. Dortmund made the quarterfinals of the Champions League, right? At the points in their round of 16 fixture, or in their quarterfinal fixture, they were 11th in the league. To show you how a lot of times it doesn't really transcend to, so league form doesn't really transcend into European form. European form, first of all, the fact that I think Arteta didn't mention something around that this season, where he mentioned the fact that they have a lot of space to rotate players. Like they have, like the squad depth is higher than what Premier League would allow. So because of that, they're able to adequately rotate players. So first of that, one, two, there's not a lot of matches, right? Compared to the league where you're playing week in, week out, and everybody's preparing for you. There's that bit. Two, the fact that in the UCL there's some sort of mutual respect, right? So Tottenham is playing this team, so they are going to be using tactics. They're not just going to be doing. In the EPL, you don't have anything around that. So it can also be in the financial bit, where the reason why English teams are doing further than other teams, because like I said, the English League has invested in their leagues. You have players from La Liga in top teams moving to relegation threatening teams in Premier League. That's how good the league is, and that's how lucrative it is, that they have somehow, how would I put it, gotten National League has stepped up in quality. You won't just be having like what JT had brought up in his thesis on Thursday. You have Spain for technical players. You have Italy for tactical bits, and you have the France for physicality and everything. In England, you have all of this now, right? You have the technical players, you have the tactical bits, and you have the physicality. Due to that, it's always, even last season, I think only one team in the knockout phase, only one team didn't make it to top 8, right? That was Man City last season. Every other team made it to the, every other in the other 3 English exponents to the UCL made it to the top 8. Same thing for this season. I think only one team again didn't make it out of the 6. You have 5 English Premier League teams, followed by, you now have one from Portuguese Ligas, Sporting CP. You have one from German Brugge, which is Bayern Munich, and you have one from Barcelona. Yes, finance plays a big role in this bit because, like I said, the English Premier League, the quality in the English Premier League right now is different from what you would have in the, what they call it, in the other league. So it's reflecting in their performance in Europe. The third thing, like I said, is a mixture of 3 things. The third thing is UCL. It's a big line. A lot of these players are more motivated to showcase themselves in this, rather because, like I said, you showcase yourself in the UCL, do very well in the UCL. There's a high chance you're going to be having the big clubs looking at you, right? So these teams take it as an avenue to, yes, apart from Madrid are the only ones that have the big teams, and Madrid is the only team that has like a big team. You can actually say, they have the expectation to always do well. These teams, Tottenham, the Dortmund, they don't have this expectation. Theirs is to come and compete, right? They have that motivation to want to do well. So, like I said, it's a combination of finance, it's a combination of league, it's a combination of motivation, and also the tactical setup of where they are coming from. In the league, you'd have them do in like the German Bundesliga and that bit. There's a lot of physicality, but you won't have that in Europe because, like I said, Europe is more about tactics. When you're playing the UCL, you're not just going to be running around. You have to actually plan what from each phase to each phase, what exactly you want to do. So, yeah,
and that's that's a lot, but it's very detailed. Now, coming back to you, Bon, this is a 2-pronged question, right? Where in all of this we have said, where does experience begin to matter again? I mean, we are now in the knockout phase. This whole UCL format, new format, started last season. The team that topped the group stage last season was Liverpool. The next round for them after the group stage was when they became knocked out. Arsenal are at the top of the table this season. I think they had a 100% record. Do you think experience might be a challenge for them, or do you see them going all the way? Where does experience begin to matter in this season's Champions League?
Okay, so experience actually matters. Do you get? Yeah. Experience, but probably we won't add football heritage, club history. It actually would matter, to be fair. Arsenal actually made it to the, I think, the semi-finals last season. They were knocked out by PSG, if I'm not mistaken. So they actually went quite far. And they actually went quite far in their journey last season. They probably also will make it far again this season. They've been a top team in Europe this year. Liverpool last season, yeah, faltered along the way, which, look, in the Champions League, especially the knockout phase and everything, as I said before, I actually rightly mentioned, it is the best that turns up out nights probably win. If you turn up that night, probably will win it that night, right? It will not matter where you are, if you are probably 15th or 16th or 8th or 9th. If you turn up, likely are going to get your results that night and you go. Because you are not competing with this particular team in the league. It's a one-night show, 2 legs, 1 night each. So it's 2 nights. You turn up, you do your job, you're going to get the results. But if I'm looking further to see how it is going to play out for the knockout phase that's coming up, right? If you look at the fixtures currently coming up, you have the Benfica meeting Real Madrid again. The Mets match game week 8 of the UCL, which Benfica won 4-2. And Tole Tribune giving a moment, a UCL historic moment. That's beautiful goal. I know Mourinho said in his post-match profile when he asked the bench, "Are we safe?" He said, "No, we needed more goal." Right? And it all felt so scripted that the goalkeeper was going to score the winning goal. For guys that actually play bets, I saw a Twitter post where someone said a goalkeeper not scoring a goal is like 15 odds, and it is free money. It was not free money that night because Anatoly Tribune, I don't know, it was just a very, very beautiful stuff. And now they're going to meet again in the round of 16 qualifiers. when you now look at football heritage, yes, you look at Jose Mourinho, you say, this guy has European pedigree. But Real Madrid have the quality to knock them out. They actually also have the European pedigree as a team to knock them out. Do you get? You can see other fixtures around. I think if you actually look at the fixtures that we should be expecting, you see an Inter Milan will face a Bodo Glimt. Bodo Glimt used game week 7 and game week 8. For me, they used their penultimate game and their last game to make it to the qualifiers to the last 24 because they beat the Manchester City at home and they beat Atletico Madrid. Yes. So in the UCL, and this is a Bodo Glimt that have not played a league game in about a month or 2 months, right? But they came into the UCL, they knew their destiny was in their hand, and it's a one-night show. If you turn up for 90 minutes one night, you will get your result, and that was what they did. And so for me, football pedigree does matter, experience does matter, but it's not the only source. It is not the only source for getting your results. Yes, all you have to just do is turn up, do your work, and you probably will get that result. But yes, we do expect certain teams to always show up. We do expect certain teams to always get the job done. For example, you'll be looking at the Barcelona to qualify to the next round. Looking at the PSG to qualify to the next round, right? Because PSG are also defending champion.
So I don't think it's really experience, because you have had fairy tale roles, right? So if you are going to say experience, right? So how do fairy tale roles happen? When you have teams that, for example, would you say PSG last season had the experience? I don't think so, because we have known them to be perennial. Like they have okay, yes, it's true. Maybe they have an experience of losing, right? I think when I had made the prediction as at the round of the playoff draw last season, and I mentioned that PSG was going to win this year, and everybody, it's actually true consensus. Everybody said, it wasn't going to happen because they don't have the experience to. You would count on experience like Madrid, people like Madrid, perennial winners like Madrid, Liverpool, Barcelona, right? Those are the people that you would say, have the experience. But like I said, experience sometimes is necessary. It's like it's part of it, but sometimes, like I said, nature finds a way to balance things. And like
So
the
from
win yesterday
last
for
season,
PSG.
based on what you said, from last season, one of the things that came up, I think, in one of my discussions with someone about PSG was that PSG had more matches to play. That meant they had a coach who had more games to mold that team together. Remember, that team was struggling at the beginning of the season.
Yes,
They
it
played
was.
that same Arsenal, the same Arsenal that they played in semi-final. They had
At the
played them
beginning of the
earlier in the
season.
season, and they struggled against them. But the turnaround for them happened in and around that playoff. They had more time to prepare in that playoff. They had more games. Do you think this is an advantage for teams in playoffs?
So I don't think it's an advantage. If for anything, I think it's you having to play more games has never been an advantage because there's the option of you, because they are also combining to league games, right? So there's going to be fatigue. If you are going to be using these same players to play those games, we are complaining on how these players are playing a lot of games. If you're going to go to a playoff route, it means, for example, now in the next 2 weeks, teams that don't have cup competition are going to be resting, right? Playing just one game, one match a week. For these next 2 weeks that champions is going to happen, they can perfect certain things that are going on in training and stuff like that. You won't have that time.
Example, Manchester United.
So you get Manchester United are able to do some things now that you're able to see now because of
they have the time to
just one game a week.
implement a lot of tactical. So I won't say it's down to, if you're going to play playoff, I think it's going to be a disadvantage, right? Because they're going to a longer route.
It's not just about if it's an advantage or disadvantage. You have to have the larger picture in view. There are factors that are operating beyond just one thing, right? I think if we combine all the factors together, experience, quality of players, number of fixtures, even the type of fixtures, where a team might be in their build-up, all of these things contribute 15, 20, varying percentage of contributions to how outcomes come about. Now, let's remember,
what I want you to comment about, Mr. Alba, now is, given what you are saying now, how are teams then able to have seasons where they do treble, quadruple? Because for you to do quadruple, treble, you can imagine the number of matches you're playing. Look at Chelsea, for example. I think over the last 1 year, how were they able to? Because if you're saying that, you need the lesser the number of games, the more your chances of succeeding in competitions like this, you then think of the season that Chelsea had recently, also during the Tuchel era, the season they had during and post-Tuchel era. Look at the number of the games they played on yearly basis and the successes that came with that. How would you then align things like that?
Yeah, so if we put all of that in perspective, right? When you place, it's why now, first of all, almost all of these teams that can gain success have a bigger team. Chelsea has a bigger team. PSG last season, let's remember that it was when they added Kvaratskhelia to their squad.
Yes, they had a bigger team too.
They had a bigger team. They had to increase. Even this season now, even though they didn't increase their size, the size of their team by external purchases, they've increased it by internal promotion of young players. Even the purchase of some young players as well are being integrated into the team. If we put that into perspective, more games equal bigger teams getting larger squads. Now, it's not enough to just have a large squad. You must have a large squad with the right players. Then throw into the mix things like injuries, right? And adaptation in some cases. These are all ingredients you have to put into the mix when you're talking about this thing. For example, it seems the more players Pep Guardiola is buying, the more injuries his teams are having.
Just to add to what Abba was saying, you know that last time with PSG, you can tell that at some points in the season, PSG has a large squad, right? At some point, it's integrate. That's why in Bayer came up, they had some other players that would play. You know, at some point during that run, Dembele was somehow, and they were managing Dembele. Dembele was not fully fit. So you have Dembele not playing the games, and you'd have him just come in to do Champions League games. I think that happened against Arsenal, where after the first leg, he wasn't fit, and they had to, so they rested him in the league because, they had a large squad. They could bring him players, play that point, and just keep these players because they wanted to win on all fronts. The league was somehow done for them. That's one thing they did very good. They made sure that since they were planning to go deeper into the stages of the UCL, they had to make sure that their league campaign was done and dusted very early. That's something that Arsenal didn't have, because Arsenal had to fight on every front with the same players.
And they don't have it even this
season.
It is happening again this season.
Same thing this season.
You get
The league is
so
not
they have
dusted
to
in the
fight
English.
with
Yeah.
in this Premier League. So the fact that they are in a league like in the EPL now, for example, where they were chasing Liverpool, everything is tight. You can't afford to rest Rice and rest Saka. You must add last season, because I think Arteta knew this and he went to the market. Even though I feel he didn't make use, the backups were not really backups per se. They were not, because getting a Madueke is never a backup.
I know you are going to call Madueke.
Madueke is never a backup to anything. And for me, that guy is supposed to be racket. He's not a footballer. But let's leave it at that. I feel he tried to increase the squad, but he didn't get quality to back up. And that's what PSG had last season. PSG had players that could manage the league properly without them making sure that all the hits that they had was cut off, while now playing their best team. They had Zaire, they had Kangin, they had Baye. They have players that could maintain that league, while the bulk of their best players fight the Champions League. So like I said, it's like what Abba was saying. Yes, less games help, right? But if you also have a very large squad profile, it makes things very easy for you. Like if your squad is big. And I think Arteta also mentioned it. This repair was also saying that he wants the EPL to also allow, I think you still allow more players than the EPL. And with that, you will be able to maybe fight on both fronts.
Yeah. So
and to come back to you, Bon, back to you. Now, Izzy mentioned something now, that as soon as PSG wrapped up their season, they didn't really have anything they were challenging on the home front. That made them focus on the Champions League. Now, this is a tournament that actually does not reward whether you are good solely, like you've mentioned. It rewards who is better on the night, who wants it more. And that's the beauty of the Champions League. Now, if you now take a look at the way the table is structured with this new format, if we have in mind that teams that would most probably be below the lower 8 now, the top 8 now, teams in the playoff, in the latter stages of the season, they usually don't have much they are contending with, they are challenging. It's usually maybe they've secured their Champions League spot and they are not really doing anything much, or they are even outside of the Champions League and they know that the only way to qualify for next season's Champions League is if they win this Champions League this season.
Which was
Having
a
that
point
in
for
mind,
Chelsea.
do you think that a team outside the top 8 with this format this season as it is can win the Champions League?
More.
Yes, now, and sorry to add. Remember last year, PSG finished 15th.
Yeah, they finished
So
15th too.
they were
So
outside the top 8.
it's quite possible. I know Abba was saying something before we started the show, right? Man, we're just trying to just like catch up. It's almost looking like the qualifying rounds are top money. They don't look small at all. You get? You have top teams after the top 8. You have an Inter Milan after the top 8. They are playing the qualifying round. There's a Dortmund there. There's a Juventus. Old ladies are also there. Even though I know some people that have written them off to say Galatasaray is going to popo there. That is left to be seen.
I don't think Galatasaray will do that.
I also don't believe so too, because it's a Juventus that has a Spalletti and they've been on the come up. So you have some quality teams outside the top 8, quality European giants outside the top 8. So it's possible, especially with the fact that the UCL is structured with the man that wants it more and night probably takes it. Do you get? So I actually am of the opinion that when you look at a lot of other factors as well, the sort I was looking at before, I was like, when I was trying to prepare for the show and everything, so I saw something, a report by Football Observatory, CIES Football Observatory, around effective playing time. So that is like the amount of times the ball is actually in play. The UEFA Champions League has one of the highest effective playing times, even greater than certain leagues, when you compare how much the ball is actually in play. And I'm using a report of 2021. And at 2021, the UEFA Champions League, the ball was kept in play for 60% of the time. The next league, even the European League too, Europa League had the same stuff. When you check the next league after the Europa League, it's the English Premier League. So you can find out that in the Champions League, the ball is almost eventually in play most of the time, which is what you can see with what we're discussing around how some guys are not doing very well. The way the EPL is structured, the density, you can see that they keep more of the ball in the Champions League. You don't have all this long balls throwing and all stuff. There's no, probably, let's say, set piece reliance. That's like a shit anyway, but there's no set piece reliance like that in Champions League, right? But the ball is always in play. When you take all these factors, the financial incentives as well, mind you as well, one of the reasons why this format changed was the threat of the European Super League. The big clubs wanted the bigger share of the pie. They wanted to play more games. They wanted more intensity in the game so that, European League nights are big nights. Sponsors love these nights. Sponsors that sponsor clubs factor in your participation in the European Champions League in your brand deals. Do you get? So if you are making UCL season in, season out, you are showcased. You are like, there's a lot of things to actually get. So when you factor in even the financial incentives into this, you can see why it's a very big deal for a lot of clubs. So is it possible for a team outside the top 8 to make it? Very, very possible. If you even look at the current group of teams that finished outside the top 8 that are fighting for qualifiers, the last 16 teams are fighting for the last 8 places, the quality of fixture is there. Benfica facing Real Madrid is one, right? Dortmund facing Atalanta. We have a French connection again with Monaco facing PSG. You have Karabakh facing Newcastle. That game can even go anyway, to be very fair. Karabakh can be a stubborn club of their day. Forget this one that they went to go and couple themselves to Liverpool.
At home, they are crazy.
They are crazy at home.
They are crazy.
They are crazy at home.
So
you have a Bodo Glimt.
So
facing Inter Milan.
So I was going to come to you easy. You know, one of the things Bon talked about was structure.
Okay.
Over the 2 legs of a knockout phase, does structure matter?
Yes, it does. It does, like mad, because it's no longer like how it used to be when we grew up, where you have home, so where home and away goes count. So it's something they have also removed out of the system. So your structure has to count, because you have to have how you before. Okay, let's say before, yes, you know that once you're playing at home, you have the advantage, right? That bit. So there's a reason why if you finish in the top 8, especially the top 2, you get to play your own fixtures in second leg.
So my question regarding what you've now said is,
okay,
now if you're saying structure matters over 2 legs,
mm-hmm.
if a team that is regarded a smaller team, a team
Okay.
with a lesser structure, then
Okay.
upsets a team with a structure over the course of 2 legs and they knock them out, should they be still considered an underdog?
Yes. He's still an underdog now. They say Cinderella and fairy tale exist for a reason. You, if yes, you did it, but it doesn't necessarily increase your status per se, right? You have Tottenham now knocking in Real Madrid. Tottenham will always still be the underdog, right? Because Real Madrid is the bigger team. So it doesn't change the status. The only thing is, what it does is, it now makes people very wary of you. For example, now, anybody that's going to be playing Bodo Glimt, he knows that, okay, their home is a fortress. They beat Man City, they beat Atletico Madrid,
Yeah, and let's go
right?
Madrid.
They have already sent a warning to nobody's going to. Before, maybe you might underrate them, but now he warms anybody that's playing them now. He warming their brain. I'm like, okay, this is no longer.
Especially
We're not
at
going to use
home.
small eye to look them. Exactly, we're not going to use small eye to look them.
So, Mr. Abba,
Yeah.
now we've talked about structure, right? Now we've talked about multiple varying factors. Now, like for example, Bodo Glimt.
Yeah.
You remember, I think what's the name of this Nigerian striker that was talking about how Mourinho came to Bodo Glimt and the weather conditions. Those are variables that
Boniface.
sometimes, in the face of structure, it just changes everything.
Yeah, true.
Now, if you look at Champions League this season, do you think there's the possibility that there will be a team that would, in the face of structure, their belief would outshine the structure they are faced with? And that will take them all the way. We've talked about Tottenham, really, but nobody's really looking at teams like Newcastle. We've talked about Benfica, what they did. It looks like we are also forgetting what Mourinho can be capable of on his day. We call him the Dark Lord for a reason. You will deploy all the possible tactics. And, the experience are some things that they don't leave you. What are your thoughts?
I think it's pretty simple. These teams can go on an interesting run. But when you look at the history of the Champions League, you know it's always difficult because one of the big boys would eventually come up and say, okay, we recognize your capacity, we recognize your ability to play well, but this is a Champions League. This year ends your run. The last time we had such a fairy tale run all the way to the very end was probably Mourinho at Porto. We're talking close to how many years ago? 20-something years ago now. Now, it's a little bit different now because, like we've all been saying throughout this show, there are finances to consider. You have to consider financial implications. So some of these big guys, losing out will cost them. So when they come across such teams who are pulling above their weight, you need to understand that they will take you very seriously. I mean, once you get to the round of 16, nobody thinks you're a small team anymore. I mean, you got that far. Nobody looks at you and thinks you didn't merit being there. You are taken as seriously as possible. They take you as much as a team that can go all the way to the final. We saw it when Pochettino carried Tottenham Hotspur all the way to the final of the Champions League. Yeah.
Yes, no.
So once that happens, people see you differently. Now there's a whole lot more at stake. Players are spending on, like we said, very big squads. And that is why year in, year out, over the last couple of years, those are the teams that have won the Champions League. Because it cost them a lot to put that team together. So nothing is taken for granted, be it weather, be it everything. Look at Karabakh. They got a good result against Chelsea. This is the Champions League, right? And they've somehow made it all the way to the playoffs. I really do believe people are looking at them going, okay, you got this far. We're not taking you for granted anymore. That's the thing about the knockout phase. The knockout phase is kind of like a game changer. We've seen it over many years where some teams come and believe we're going to glide through this match. Say Barcelona, for example. They have some of the most embarrassing results in the Champions League, despite being one of the best teams in the history of the Champions League. And you come and you get bashed 4-1, 5-something, and all of that, simply because you thought your status will carry you through. We've talked about it being your attitude on the night. Once you get to the knockout round, everybody believes you deserved it. You didn't get there because of any funny business. You got there in a serious, and that's why I really believe a team like Real Madrid are itching to play the next fixture against Benfica, because they are trying to say whatever complacency happened in that final group stage phase, we are going to put it right. We are going to show you that we are. You heard what Fiorentino Perez said a couple of days ago. I think that was 2 days ago, right? He complained about the Champions League, saying that it was Real Madrid's birthright to be in the top 8. So, I mean, just think about
It's their
it.
birthright. Someone that's won 15 Champions League. Of
Yeah,
course,
he
you look
says
at that as your
it's their
birthright.
birthright to be there.
Their
So,
birthright.
and somehow they denied themselves their own birthright. It's all on them.
So now that you've mentioned that, we are now looking at things from the point of view of culture. When you look at the badge, the weight of the badge, you're saying that, for teams like Real Madrid, they are looking at the badge, their culture. They've won it 15 times. 15 now.
Yes, sir.
We've also talked about the fact that Champions League is actually in moments. For example, the goalkeeper of Benfica scoring a last-minute goal against mighty Real Madrid. If that were a knockout game, imagine that kind of moment winning a final.
But that's the
That
thing.
is crazy.
Like
So
we
my
say,
question is,
okay.
which has more weight? Is it the badge, the culture enshrined in players, considering matches, games? I'm going to mention it again. Manchester City versus Real Madrid. Remember that game?
Yeah.
Or PSG versus Real Madrid, where nothing will happen for large parts of the game, and then in extra time or injury time, things will just change because players just then derive strength from the badge, from the weight that the badge gives. So what matters more? Is it the badge or magic moments like this?
I think it's the badge because sometimes the badge produces magic moments, right? The best players are in the biggest teams for a reason because they have the capacity to produce magic moments. So they play for the biggest badges, right? So the badge influence. Can you remember Gareth Bale's bicycle overhead kick to score in the Champions League? Can you remember Cristiano Ronaldo's towering header to score for Juventus? Do you remember when Atletico Madrid beat Real Madrid and then beat Juventus and they made fun of the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo didn't score, and the next leg he bangs in 3 goals, right? Yeah, so these are things that all culminate in why the biggest moments are provided by the biggest players. Occasionally, we have these bright stars like what happened with Benfica. It doesn't change the grand picture at the end of the day. The grand picture is the biggest players play for the biggest badges because the biggest badges inspire the biggest moments. That's just the reality of it, right? Whether you're talking Champions League, you're talking national team football, we see it in the World Cup, where Germany comes and brushes aside Brazil by a 7-1 scoreline. So it's
yeah, but
I don't understand because I wear Brazil jersey. I they remind. And what's that?
so the thing is, when you take things like this,
yeah,
you would expect that smaller clubs will not be able to produce such moments. Could you remember? I think this was in
but that's the
Champions
beauty
League.
of football. The
There
beauty
was
of
a
football
gift.
is
There was a gift that I remember that I stored on my phone then of I think it was it Porto or it was a Portuguese team that scored from the midfield against Arsenal. Could you remember that goal?
I'm trying to remember.
You can't remember.
But you see, that's the beauty of football. The beauty of football is that in crazy moments, people who the odds are stacked against can produce magic. That's what football is. That's why we're here discussing football. Because even though the odds can be stacked against you, there are those times where magic happens, right? Where Leicester City comes and win the Premier League. Those are the things that make football worth watching. Where you have a player, for example, like Igor Tudor now, banging in goals in the Premier League, left, right, center. Where you have someone like Mbappe already producing 13 goals in 7 group stage matches, 13 UEFA Champions League goals. But the idea is this: football produces magic. Sometimes it might be overwhelmingly in favor of the big teams, but we have those moments where small teams come around and produce absolutely memorial moments for us to keep in our hearts forever. I mean, do you remember Zinedine Zidane's goal against, I think it was Bayer Leverkusen, the winning goal in the Champions League? I can never forget that. That's about 20 years ago now. I think 24 years ago now, where Real Madrid had that kick. He just swept the ball. But that's what football is all about. Those really crazy moments. And those moments are not exclusive to the big teams. They're not exclusive. It's not something that is reserved for them alone. So we still get to see those moments from the smaller boys, right? Like Karabakh pressing Chelsea.
So there's an issue with the small teams, right?
Yeah.
So the issue with the small teams is, right, for the big teams, they can replicate this moment.
Yeah.
Because they have the quality,
they have the quality and the players to do it.
For a small team, they can do it in one stage and they might not be able to replicate that moment again in the next round, right? So I think this is where the idea of is where quality and the badge comes in. For these big teams, they know. For example, now as a Madrid player, you know that is your birthright. Imagine being told that is your birthright, that this team must bring it home.
By your owner,
Automatically, you have more
by the
motivation.
president. The president tells you it's our birthright to get this done.
Abba Easy, when they present Real Madrid players, they take them to the UCL trophy room. You are showcased 15
show them.
UCL titles.
UCL, they get
The rest will be
Yeah, so-
telling you. They will take
And-
picture there, tell you this is what we live for. What do you expect?
I think it's important. I think it's important that we don't just keep this to only Real Madrid. You look at Barcelona. There is a heritage in the midfield that if you play in that midfield, you have to produce something close to Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and players like that. When you
Very
play in
true,
the
actually,
defense,
very true.
you have to have the spirit of Carlos Puyol. When you play up front, you have to provide like the stars. Rivaldo play for Barcelona. We're looking at Lamine Yamal behaving like a kind of regen Rivaldo, although not with the pace, but with the crosses and everything, right? We talk about Ronaldinho playing for Barcelona. We are seeing that again. So it's that these things happen from time to time with the big teams, like Izzy rightly said. It's like a rite of passage for them. Now, because of the quality being stacked among the bigger teams, be it Chelsea, Manchester United, not really Manchester United anyway, Manchester City, let's say Arsenal for now. Let's talk about Bayern Munich.
Abba, what's your problem?
How about
Why?
that shit United? What's good?
I mean, you can't be a big boy and not be in the Champions League. It means that you are where you belong. So
Wow.
it's what it is.
Wow.
I didn't decide it.
Wow.
They did. So if you're not there, then you are where you belong, right? If you cannot even get from the Europa League to the Champions League,
Wow.
you are where you belong.
Wow.
So it is
Well,
what
at
it
this
is.
point, I have to let Manchester United fans know that we love Manchester United. I love the football they are playing.
It's
That
just what it is. It's a
solely
reality.
Abba's opinion.
No, it's what it is. You're not there. You're not in the Champions League. If you are the best of the best, you be in the Champions League. You are not there. You
There
were
was
not,
a time that Chelsea was not in the Champions League.
and then you came
They were
back.
playing
No,
and
but
then
I
you
don't
came
think-
Europa Conference
no,
and then
League.
you came
No,
back.
no,
because
but
you are
I
a
don't think
big
Chelsea
boy.
has been. I don't think Chelsea have been
Right.
absent. If you compare the number of times they have been in the UCL for the past 10 years, it's even higher than what United have since that period.
Even
United
if
have been
you-
playing more in the Europa League.
If you even
I
use the record that Chelsea just broke on March, where they've made 18 round of 16, you will look at that and say,
16 fishers.
even
Manchester
the Man
United is
City
not
has
even
matched-
second.
Let's not make
Even
this.
United
Let's
has
not
12.
make this
Even
about. Let's not make
United
this a
has 12.
Chelsea versus Man U.
United has 12.
Let's not make this. We are not here to debate Chelsea versus Man U. Anyway,
I think we're
I
just
wanted to
saying
bring us to a
that
point.
this is a conversation for the teams that are producing magic in 2025-2026 Champions League season. And if you are not even at the party, just stay where you are. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. So, well, I'd like us to wrap it up with this. The playoff fixtures have come out now. I'd like our predictions regarding the playoff fixtures. I don't know if we have them on our phones and we can just bring them. I think we have one of the pictures. So I'm just going to read off. So we've got Karabakh versus Monaco. Sorry, I'm not sure I'm reading
Karabakh
out
versus
the-
Newcastle.
Karabakh versus Newcastle. What are your thoughts?
I would give it to a Newcastle team, actually. I'll actually give it to Newcastle. Newcastle may find it hard at Karabakh zone because at Azerbaijan, I don't know, Karabakh just have a way of just playing there. So, and I think the Azerbaijan Premier League just resumed, if I'm not mistaken. It does resume. So,
Yeah,
match fitness
I think-
could be a thing and stuff.
I don't
I
think
will
match
give it to
fitness is a thing.
Newcastle too.
The last two fixtures in the Champions League have shown match fitness is not a problem for Karabakh. What I really think is the problem is Newcastle have been inconsistent, especially in the league, but they've been playing well in the Champions League. And I think that has to
Mhm.
count for something. That is because I think for teams in England, the Champions League, they found it much more adaptable, just like we said earlier in the beginning of the
Yeah.
show. So it's very important to understand that I think Newcastle will edge them out. It might be tight. We know that Karabakh know how to press well. They know how to close spaces. They get up in
That's
your
not very
face and they make it
compact
very
defensive structure.
difficult. But then we also know that those are the games that Newcastle have been able to somewhat excel this season. When it comes to other fluent football games, Newcastle have been not too good on average across the whole season. So I'll give it to Newcastle.
Make a bold prediction.
Okay. And the French are fair. PSG, mighty PSG, and defending champions versus AS
Please,
Monaco.
it's PSG, I bet. PSG good.
PSG is
not-
away in the first leg.
Let's not think
No,
about
which is
too
away?
much.
It's their country.
It's our
There's no
country.
away.
There's no away.
It's their country. It's their country. PSG own all of France.
They
So
will
it's their
just
country.
throw.
It's
They'll
not even
just throw to the
debate.
next side of the pond.
They just throw out to the island of Monaco and
I
do
think
whatever they want with
I
it.
think it's
To the
I
important.
know
kingdom
what's
of
funny
Monaco.
thing.
Yeah.
If they played a French opponent in the playoff last season and they beat them 10-0 aggregate, I'm not expecting to see that 10-0. But I'm expecting somewhat of a 7-2, a massive beating, comprehensive beating.
So
PSG should comprehensively
and you
beat
must
Monaco.
bear
So
in
that's my
mind that PSG are beginning to welcome injured players back. There's a little bit of improvement in their injury crisis. The stability is coming in gradually. And I really do think the fact that they are not in the market tells me that Enrique believes he can begin to put in a shift on all fronts in this particular stage of the season.
Yeah.
The next fixture, that's solid. Next fixture is what we've already talked about. Benfica versus Real Madrid. Real Madrid away again in the first leg.
It's
That
strange.
fixture
That I would
is
say
Real Madrid
Madrid
versus
win both
Mourinho.
legs.
It's Real Madrid versus Mourinho, actually, for me.
Madrid win both legs.
But I say
Madrid win
Madrid
both
going
legs.
through.
I
think
see Madrid
Madrid
going
would
through.
win.
I don't think
To win, but I
I
think
don't think
it's
Benfica
going
has
to
the
be
quality, Sha.
yes, that's the problem. It's going to be tricky. Benfica
think
may
Benfica-
not have the quality, but they have the
to play
tactical
both legs against Madrid.
they have the tactical nuance because Madrid have been slow starters in games across the season. The first half is
Yes.
always the problem for Real Madrid. If Benfica manage, and I'm saying this because of Jose Mourinho, manage to muster anything in the first half, it's going to make the game very close, which means Real Madrid will have to rely on their spirit.
And the first leg is at
Alvaro
Benfica. The first leg is at
Alvaro
Porto.
Abaloa is basically 2 weeks into the job, and he's already under pressure. Just basically 2 weeks
So I
into
don't
the job.
think. So I don't think Benfica have the even. So it's one thing to have the tactical nuance,
Mhm.
and it's one thing to have the tools to play what this Benfica team cannot set up the way Mourinho wants to play. So even if they win the first half, except it's a very high margin, I still feel Mourinho would
No.
set up how he
I
did
think
now.
you need to understand what I'm
He
saying.
will set
What
up
I'm
a
saying
massive block,
is the
right?
outcome of
But
that
I don't
game-
think they have the quality of player.
No, I'm saying the
I don't think they have.
outcome of that fixture depends on Real Madrid. I'm not saying it depends on Benfica. It depends on what Real Madrid will do. Because Real Madrid have been a little bit seesaw team all season in all competitions. Let's be fair. Across the whole season, in every competition, we've seen the best, we've seen the worst, and we've seen bang average. So it totally depends on how Real Madrid turn up.
So I think Madrid wins
For me,
2-1.
I think
2-1 first leg
Benfica.
and
I think Benfica will win.
3-0.
And I'll tell you why I
That's
think
it.
Benfica will win. One, Mourinho is a huge factor. And Arbeloa does not have 10% of the experience in Champions League that Mourinho has.
But you can
But they
say
have
the same
Mbappe.
for Zidane. When Zidane won his first Champions League, did he have the
I'll tell you
experience?
something about Zidane. Zidane was with the team from the very early stages. This is Arbeloa that's just 2 weeks into the job.
And
in
he's
the
already
middle of
under
chaos.
pressure. That's why I said it's tricky.
Yeah. And if you look at the game that Benfica played against them, Benfica were not playing anti-football. They took the game to Real Madrid. In fact, that game should have been summarized in the first half.
No, I
They
think,
were missing a lot of chances.
but the dynamic
Now
changes.
you don't
The
now have
dynamic
that
changes.
Benfica again with the
Benfica needed
belief.
to
They are
qualify
not
in
going
this
into a
fixture.
game with just pressure alone. They know that they can they've beaten them before,
Yeah.
and they can beat them again.
But Abba just mentioned something. It's a dynamic that
The
we need to actually
dynamics
factor
of
in.
the fixture has
Benfica
changed.
needed that game. Like they needed
One
that
was
game.
dying to qualify.
Yeah, I get you. Let's not dwell too much on that. The other one is Bodo Glimt. Almighty Bodo Glimt at home
Versus Inter Milan.
versus Inter Milan. And Inter Milan has a young coach as well, Christian Kivu.
And
If people don't explain at home, I think the home leg should be in the first. If Inter Milan can, because Inter Milan has a way of, I think that happened before with Sparta Prague, with Slavia Prague. So Inter Milan don't, instead of the Champions League, these opponents that you would normally think Inter Milan will take care of, Inter Milan find it difficult to do that. So if they go to Norway and decide to do what Man City did there, I can assure you that second leg they feel
let me tell you the
For me, I
truth.
feel
Let me
there's a potential banana peel in that fixture.
yes.
That fixture
Yes.
looks like one for the upset.
If Inter Milan don't get a positive result away, and by positive result I mean a house down win away, their home advantage would reduce down to almost nothing in the second leg. That's the thing about Bodo Glimt. I think if you look at their last two fixtures in the Champions League, right, what they do is they humble you by making a total rubbish of your system and formation. Do you understand?
Yeah,
They
actually
just
an
make it.
anti-system team. The
Yes,
proper
anti-system.
Yeah.
They make your system looks
sir.
rubbish, and you start wondering if it's your system. And the moment that
True.
complacency comes in, and that's why I think even a draw at home is a huge advantage for them, massive advantage, because a draw will put a lot of ideas into Inter Milan's head in the return leg.
Do you know what I think? Now, this is because, you know, I'm a fan of Serie A, and you might say there's a little bit of bias here. Watch out for this kid, Pio Esposito. And also
I
to let
agree.
you know,
Very
Inter
fine player.
have been
Very
in
fine
form.
player.
Inter have been in form of late. They have players that have just hit the right rhythm at the right time. Players like Dimarco, players like Lautaro Martinez. Whenever he's shining, the team is shining.
And we have
That's the
almost
thing. And
3 weeks before these
Christian
fixtures
Kivu.
kick off. So things can
Yeah,
happen in that
things can happen
period.
in
You also
3
have to
weeks.
have in mind that Christian Kivu tends to struggle against big teams. But when it comes to small teams, he does not struggle. He does
Like the
not
way
struggle.
dispatched Palmer last weekend. Chibi.
Yeah, but they won 6-1 or so.
6-1, yes, no.
Yeah.
Despite considering 6-2. Despite considering first goal spell.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. I don't think this fixture is even going to be a problem for them. And remember, they still have a team that also still believe that they should have won the Champions League. They had one chance at winning that Champions League. Sorry, not one, twice now.
It's twice
So,
now.
I think, you know,
I think it's
we've
twice now.
talked about experience, learning from even failures. They've had that twice now. So they have I know they will have a lot of motivation. But let's see.
Atletico has been doing that. And he never stay motivated to do anything. So I don't think he know what he
And Atletico Madrid is going away to Club Brugge.
Atletico is a way to Club Brugge.
Another potential banana peel because Atletico right now are not settled. I'm hearing rumors that Simeone wants to leave.
Yeah.
Their players are saying they want to leave. Club Brugge at home is not an easy fixture. We can tell by how they dispatched Roberto De Zerbi's Marseille in the last game. They caused issue to Barcelona in that same same home. So I don't think Club Brugge at home would cause it's going to be massively difficult for Atletico Madrid. If they survive that home fixture, I think they have a very good route to qualify. But I think that game is going to be very hard for Atletico Madrid.
What are your thoughts about Atletico, Mr. Abba?
I think my biggest issue is the fact that I don't think Atletico know who they are correctly. There are
There's no identity.
Yes, too many issues both on and off the pitch. You have an extremely well-paid coach. Paid better
He's the
than
highest paid coach in Europe.
Yeah. And then it just seems like the recruitment has been below par. You get Julian Alvarez this high up. Then you get somebody in the middle that is that low down, doesn't produce the goods. So there's been a lot of discontent within the team, and they've not produced what we know Atletico Madrid should or have been producing in the past. They've not done exceptionally well in the league or even in the Champions League. There've been poor results left, right, and center. So it's going to be a very strange game. And like I said, a lot of the second fixture, because we no longer have the away goal, a lot of the final fixture depends on what happened in the first leg. And if Club Brugge have an advantage or a draw, Atletico will be for a terrible game in the second leg.
This is one fixture I'm not going to comment about. So, Bon, Abba, you already know what I'm talking about. Galatasaray versus Juventus. Juventus away in the first leg, and then they have the home fixture in the second leg.
Sammy said you guys will lose that game. I hope Sammy listens to this particular part of this episode. Sammy said people will lose that game. But for me, I have a contrary opinion. So I don't even know if you guys will lose or if you guys will win, right? And I'll give you my reasons why. First of all, I think Spalletti has been in a very top job. Juventus is not really a team that you can just walk over. Even if you have one of the best finishers in the world let's not go Osimhen in your team. I don't think Juventus is a team that you can just go and say you just walk over them, right? It's going to be the same thing as we are saying. If Juventus can get the results in that first leg, if Galatasaray loses the game,
They might not get a
but
result
that's the
though.
problem.
Turkey
Turkey is not
Turkey
Turkey
is
is
a
not
very Turkey is a very difficult
Turkey
place to
is a
go.
very hostile ground.
You can even tell from their results. Even Liverpool lost at Galatasaray this season. Galatasaray is a very difficult place to go.
Very difficult
Turkey,
team.
like I'm mentioning it.
And they're actually not a bad
If
team.
you are going to play top,
Atlanta is actually a very, very
they're not a
balanced
bad team.
team. It's a very, very
So-
balanced team.
So I think I think I tend to support what Bon said. Bon said if Juventus somehow manage a result in the first fixture, in the first leg, let's say a draw or they win, I think that fixture is home and dry for Juventus. Right?
Well, if they
But
lose,
if they do
if they
lose
lose,
that first leg,
just be
second leg is not going to be
just be
funny.
dusty like this. It's possible that you guys are going over.
Ah,
Well, everything is dependent on the
Exactly,
first
but yeah.
leg for me. And that first leg.
The next one is
the last one, I
Atalanta
think.
away to
Okay, not
Borussia
the last
Dortmund.
one. Okay.
So,
For me, two teams of equal quality.
and if Ademola Lookman has left because I'm hearing they're negotiating for him to go to Fenerbahce. And another thing again, Fenerbahce has topped up. That Turkish Super League will not be as easy as it was for Galatasaray. I think the point difference between them is not that much again, like 2 points or 3 points. But if Ademola Lookman leaves after, because Ademola Lookman, he has this thing, he has this tournament thing. I don't know why. In the league, it may be like this, but in tournaments, we saw it at the Europa League. We saw that now, even in this Champions League, before even the AFCON, he was performing very well. But as Izzy said, it's two teams of equal quality, to be fair. Two teams of equal strength. Dortmund on their being
So I think
very good team
Dortmund-
as well.
So I think Dortmund would pick this fixture, would win the tie. I don't know how it's going to go for both legs, but I think they'll win the tie based on the badge. Dortmund have been experienced
Yeah.
playing this round of the tournament, and they have been known to go deeper. If Dortmund makes it out of the group stage, they have been known to go deeper into the Champions League. So
This was last season as well.
I think Dortmund take this one.
And that brings us to the match that I know maybe most probably we might not all be really watching. It's Olympiacos
Bayern
at home to Leverkusen.
Olympiacos at home, a problem. That's another place like Turkey. Because even Arsenal went there in the Europa League some years ago and they know what they saw. So Olympiacos at home, a problem. But issue is Leverkusen's form is like this.
Yeah.
So you don't know what to expect from them on a certain day. Right? But like I said, the onus is on Leverkusen to qualify. But I feel for me, if I were to place my money, I think I'll take Olympiacos.
Surprisingly, I agree.
Yeah, actually, I agree
Surprisingly,
too.
I agree.
Because an Olympiacos is another team that if you look at European pedigree, now just general European pedigree in the last maybe 6-7 years, they've gone on good runs. Not in the Champions League, but in the Europa League, they've gone on good runs. Do you get? They won the European Conference League after West Ham. I'm not mistaken.
Some years. Yes,
They
after
beat
West Ham,
AS Roma in the final. I'm not mistaken. They actually won Mourinho in his. That is why I think it was
in the
the final. So they have a good way of causing upsets. And Greece is not as easy as it is another banana peel league. If you go their way, they have very loud fans, very ultra positive, tense fans. Like, see, there are two leagues, especially that I look at their fan base and like, if you go there, it's a dodgy affair. Turkey and Greece.
Agree.
You don't want to hear their fans. It's almost like Anfield Pro Max. So Bayer Leverkusen have a very difficult job to actually surmount because they've been very up and down. There was a period in which they were competing, playing well. We thought, okay, they will be vying for the second position. Then they fell off, came up again. So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation for them.
Well said. And that's why football keeps pulling us back. On one hand, the league tells us who's consistent. On the other hand, Europe tells us that who's brave when there's nowhere to hide. That's who wins. Some teams just need rhythm. Others need just one night. And sometimes belief carries further than logic. Because how is a keeper scoring a winning goal with the last contact in a game? Today, we didn't settle anything, and that's the point. Because the match query isn't there to deliver answers. That's not what we are trying to do. We are here to challenge the ones that think the answers that we think we already have. Same questions, different nights. This has been the match query. We'll see you next time. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on all our videos on any platform you watch it. YouTube, Spotify, and everywhere. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be answering all your comments in the comment section. It's a wrap from us here at the Match Query. See you next time.
Thank you guys. Peace out.